Hi everyone, welcome back to Money.Finesse.Mindset. This is episode 9. Are you feeling anxious with every incoming call wondering if it's from a debt collector? Are you feeling helpless and wishing you could hit reset on your finances? Are you thinking about filing for personal bankruptcy? If so, you are not alone. Let's start with the big picture. Over the past 17 years, bankruptcy filings in the US have gone through some dramatic shifts. Filings climbed fast after 2008, peaking at 1.5 million in 2011 as part of the fallout from the Great Recession. From there, the numbers gradually declined. Between 2017 and 2020, filings hovered around an average of 750,000 cases per year. When COVID hit in early 2020, millions of businesses closed and unemployment jumped from 3.6% to 14.7%. Many expected personal bankruptcy filings to climb again, but they didn't. In fact, filings dropped even further, reaching a low of just under 382,000 cases in 2022. This was largely thanks to stimulus checks, lower spending during lockdowns, and the temporary lender relief programs. But in 2023, the trend reversed. With pandemic relief ending, inflation and interest rates rising, and the economic uncertainty growing, personal bankruptcies began to climb again. The latest data shows more than 500,000 Americans filed in the 12 months ending March 31st, 2025. This upward trend is worth paying attention to. That's why today I'm going to break down what bankruptcy is, how it works, and what to consider before you file. I will also walk you through the process using an example. Let's meet Dave. He is 35 and works full-time in customer service. His take-home pay is $3,050 a month. Like many Americans, he has less than $1,000 in emergency savings, so any surprise expense can quickly knock him off balance. Dave has a $110,000 mortgage at a fixed interest rate of 4.5%. With property tax and insurance, his total housing costs come to $1,400 a month, about half of his take-home pay. He also carries $29,000 in credit card debts and has been making the required minimum payments of $620 a month. With the credit card companies charging interest rates close to 20%, he hardly feels like he's making any progress. On top of that, he has several student loans totaling $8,000 with a fixed interest rate of 5.5%, which adds another $150 to his monthly bills. For his everyday expenses, Dave spends $920 on food, some at the grocery store, the rest on restaurants and takeout. Utilities, internet, and phone add up to $380. Then another $300 goes toward entertainment, transportation, and all those little extra that seem to sneak up each month. When you add it up, Dave's spending exceeds his income by $720 a month. He has also been told that his company is planning multiple rounds of layoff, and there's no telling if he will survive the cut. As his debt keeps growing and his income is on shaky ground, Dave is beginning to see bankruptcy not as an escape, but as a possible path to a fresh start. Before getting into the specifics, let's meet the who's who of a bankruptcy case. The debtor is the person who owes the money. In this episode, it's Dave. Creditors are the lenders Dave owes money to. A trustee is a neutral third party who reviews the case, looks for red flags, and ensures creditors receive the maximum repayment possible. The bankruptcy court is where the case is filed, reviewed, and decided. If there are disputes, the assigned judge steps in to sort out the matter. The U.S. trustee oversees the whole system and supervises trustees. Co-signers or joint account holders are people who agreed to share responsibility for the debt, usually out of love or trust. Even if they didn't use the money themselves, they can still be held responsible for it. A bankruptcy attorney usually charges a flat fee and sometimes requires payments upfront. Most people hire one. From start to finish, filing for personal bankruptcy can be complicated. It involves lots of paperwork and several hurdles. To keep it simple, I break the process down into 6 major steps. Step 1. Groundwork. Alright, so what happens if Dave decides to file? Here's the first thing he has to do. He must attend a credit counseling session from a government-approved provider within 180 days. The counselor reviews his income, debt, and expenses. They might suggest alternatives but cannot force him to follow them. Afterward, Dave gets a certificate of completion. He will need this for his bankruptcy paperwork. Step 2. Debt showdown. Broadly speaking, there are 2 types of debt, secured and unsecured. Secured debt is tied to something of value. If you stop paying, you could lose that asset. Mortgages, car loans, and home equity lines of credit are common examples. Unsecured debt is not tied to an asset. Examples include alimony, child support, most student loans, credit cards, personal loans, buy now pay later plans, and medical bills. Here's the biggest myth about bankruptcy. Not all debts can be wiped out. Some are not eligible for discharge, and Dave needs to know the difference. For secured debt, Dave has only one, his $110,000 mortgage. If he wants to keep his home, he has to keep up with those payments. If he owns other valuables, like a luxury watch or a vintage comic collection, the trustee could sell them to repay creditors. Unsecured debt is trickier. Alimony and child support are priority debts, so they cannot be discharged. Student loans usually cannot be wiped out either. Other unsecured debts, like Dave's credit card balances, are eligible. Depending on which personal bankruptcy chapter he files, those qualifying debts can be reduced or erased. Step 3. Pick a chapter. There are 2 personal bankruptcy chapters for Dave to consider. Chapter 7. The trustee may sell non-exempt assets to repay creditors. If there's nothing to sell or the proceeds are not enough, the rest of your qualifying debts are discharged, essentially forgiven and wiped clean. In a straightforward case, the process usually takes about 4 to 6 months. Chapter 13. Based on your income, debts, and expenses, you propose a 3 to 5 year repayment plan. The trustee reviews it, and the bankruptcy court must approve it. In most cases, you repay only a portion of your eligible debt, often around 10 to 30%, with the rest discharged. Between the two, Chapter 7 might seem like the better option. It's quicker and can wipe out more debt, especially if you don't have non-exempt assets to give up. So should Dave or everyone just file Chapter 7? Not so fast. To qualify for Chapter 7, Dave first has to pass the means test. This looks at his average monthly income over the past 6 months, before taxes and deductions, and compares it to the state median for a household of his size. If his pre-tax income is below the median, he passes automatically. If it is higher, he could still qualify, but only if his disposable income is too low to make a meaningful impact on a long-term repayment plan under Chapter 13. To figure out his disposable income, Dave subtracts allowed expenses like mortgage, utilities, food, and other necessary living costs from his after-tax take-home pay. If what's left is not enough to make a meaningful dent in his debts, he passes the means test. This calculation helps Dave and the trustee decide which chapter makes the most sense for his situation. In recent years, about 60% of personal bankruptcies have been Chapter 7, showing that while it is common, it is not the only path. Chapter 13 can still be the right choice for many people who need time or want to keep their non-exempt assets. Step 4. Make it official. Once Dave decides on a chapter and files his bankruptcy petition, the automatic stay kicks in. That means creditors must stop all collection efforts. They cannot even send monthly billing statements. Violating the automatic stay can result in fines. At the same time, a trustee is assigned to review his paperwork. Then comes the 341 meeting of creditors, where Dave and the trustee go over the case. Creditors can attend, but usually don't. If the trustee finds problems like missing documents, inaccurate information, or signs of misuse or abuse of credit, they can ask the bankruptcy court to dismiss the case. In Chapter 7, the trustee decides if you own any non-exempt assets that can be sold. These are things above and beyond the basics you need to live and work, like a luxury watch or a vintage comic collection. Unless someone objects, the bankruptcy court generally don't get involved in approving those sales. In Chapter 13, the trustee reviews whether the repayment plan is reasonable. If it is, the case is submitted to the bankruptcy court, which confirms the plan. After completing the liquidation process for Chapter 7 or the required repayment for Chapter 13, the case moves toward the finish line, but there's one more step Dave must take. Step 5. Money lessons. Before his case can officially close, Dave must take a debtor education course from an approved provider. It covers budgeting, saving, and using credit wisely. This training is designed to help Dave make smarter financial choices and avoid getting into money trouble again. Once he finishes the course and submits the certificate of completion, the bankruptcy court closes the case and discharges his remaining eligible debt. At last, Dave can finally move forward with a fresh start. Step 6. Manage the fallout. Bankruptcy is not a silver bullet. As mentioned earlier, almost all secured debts and several types of unsecured debt don't get wiped out through bankruptcy. In Dave's case, he still needs to make his monthly mortgage payment if he wants to keep his home. Likewise, he is still responsible for repaying student loans. On top of that, his credit takes a hit. If he files Chapter 7, this negative information stays on his credit reports for 10 years from the filing date. If he opts for Chapter 13, it remains for 7 years. That could make getting a loan, opening a credit card, or even renting an apartment trickier for a while. Despite the restrictions and drawbacks, bankruptcy can be a lifeline for the right person at the right time. It offers a way to stop the snowball of debt from spinning out of control and start fresh. If you are thinking about it, the key is to know your options, understand the process, and be clear on what you can and cannot do. I hope you find this episode helpful. Take care of yourself and your finances. See you next time.